The conference room on the 42nd floor of the Meridian Tower in downtown Chicago held 200 people that Tuesday morning. Executives and department heads gathered for the quarterly review that would determine next year's budget allocations. The presentation screens glowed with charts and projections. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. The smell of fresh coffee mixing with expensive cologne hung in the air. When Regional Director Victoria Ashford spotted the coffee stains spreading across the carpet near the refreshment table, she stopped mid-sentence. Her heels clicked against the hardwood as she crossed the room, her voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "You janitor, what is this?" Marcus Cole stood near the coffee station, his grey uniform pressed and clean, a mop handle resting against his shoulder. He looked at the stain, then at her, his expression unchanged. "I asked you a question." Victoria's voice carried to every corner of the room. "This is a $60,000 presentation, and you can't even keep the floor clean. This is exactly why some people never rise above their station." Marcus said nothing. His phone buzzed once in his pocket, a familiar 3:15 reminder, and his eyes flickered down for just a moment before returning to meet hers. The whispers started. 200 people watched and not one spoke up. Victoria smoothed her jacket and turned back to her presentation. Behind her, Marcus was already on his knees, cleaning the stain with methodical precision, his movements unhurried and exact. The coffee had been spilled by a junior analyst named Ben, who now stared at his shoes, his face burning with a mixture of shame and fear, saying nothing. Within 20 minutes, the carpet showed no trace of the incident. Marcus gathered his supplies, checked his watch, and returned to his routine as though the last 15 minutes had never happened. His cart moved silently through the hallway, each bottle and cloth arranged in precise order, labels facing outward, handles aligned. The quarterly meeting resumed. Victoria Ashford concluded her presentation to polite applause, secured her budget increase, and never looked toward the hallway where the janitor had disappeared. But something had shifted. In that room, the junior analyst who had spilled the coffee kept glancing at the door, his mind unable to return to the spreadsheets before him. Two senior managers exchanged a long, heavy look but said nothing, the unspoken tension settling between them like dust. And in the security office on the ground floor, an older guard named Raymond Briggs watched the entire incident on a grainy monitor, his own coffee growing cold in his hand, his jaw set in a tight line as he replayed the footage, focusing not on Victoria's scorn, but on Marcus's unnervingly calm reaction. Marcus finished his shift at exactly 5:30, as he did every day. He changed in the maintenance locker room, trading his grey uniform for worn jeans and a plain black jacket. His locker contained nothing personal except a single photograph taped to the inside of the door. It showed a little girl with his eyes and her mother's smile, gap-toothed and laughing at whoever held the camera. He drove a 12-year-old Honda Civic with 180,000 miles on it, the kind of car that required weekly attention but refused to die. A testament to quiet, consistent care. The drive from downtown Chicago to his apartment in Cicero took 45 minutes with traffic, and he used that time the same way he used most of his time, in silence. Planning, preparing. The apartment was small but immaculate. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that had seen better decades. But the floors were clean enough to eat from, every surface orderly and deliberate. He prepared a simple meal, ate alone at the small table, and then opened a laptop that seemed out of place in the modest setting. On the screen, lines of complex code scrolled past. His phone, the same one that had buzzed at 3:15, now displayed a series of encrypted messages. The 3:15 alarm was not a reminder for him, but a signal that his daughter, Lila, had safely arrived home from school. The photograph in his locker was old. The laughing girl was now 14 and living with her mother in Seattle, a distance measured in more than just miles. Meanwhile, in a high-rise apartment overlooking Lake Michigan, Victoria Ashford celebrated her budgetary victory with a glass of expensive Malbec. She scrolled through congratulatory emails. The incident with the janitor, a distant, insignificant blip. But as she tried to sleep, the image of the man's placid face, the utter lack of reaction in his eyes, replayed in her mind with strange persistence. At the same time, junior analyst Ben typed and deleted 3 different emails to facilities management, attempting to confess to the spill, but courage failed him each time. Security guard Raymond Briggs, off his shift, sat in a diner and sketched Marcus's face on a napkin from memory, a habit from his former life as a police sketch artist, troubled by a detail he couldn't quite name. The story, however, was only beginning to unfold. The following Tuesday, again at 3:15, Victoria was in the midst of a high-stakes conference call when every screen in the second floor conference room flickered and went dark. A single line of text, green and pixelated, appeared on each. Accountability is also a $60,000 virtue. The stain was never his. Panic ensued. AT was baffled. The system was secure. The junior analyst, Ben, felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. Raymond Briggs, watching the live camera feed from the security office, leaned forward, his heart pounding. He rewound the tape from earlier in the day and saw Marcus, during his morning cleaning round, pause by the main server closet for exactly 47 seconds. A panel open, his hands a blur of competent motion. It was not vandalism, but a message, surgically precise and impossible to trace. Victoria's public humiliation was a quiet echo of her own making. The board, now aware of the incident, thanks to the anonymous digital memo that appeared in their inboxes detailing the true story of the coffee spill, began to question her judgment and character. The budget increase was put on hold. The stain on her reputation, unlike the one on the carpet, would not be so easily removed. Marcus continued his work, silent and efficient. He cleaned the server closet the next morning, his expression as unreadable as ever. He knew the building's secrets, its digital arteries, its hidden conduits, the fragile egos of its occupants. He was a ghost in the machine, both literally and figuratively. His past, a former network security engineer for a 3-letter agency, had been traded for anonymity after a personal tragedy made him prioritize safety over status. The job at Meridian Tower was a cover, a way to remain close to the digital pulse of the city while drawing no attention, a promise he had made to keep his daughter far from the shadows of his old life. But some lines, once crossed, demanded a response. His was not one of anger, but of balance. Weeks passed. Victoria Ashford took a sudden leave of absence. Ben, the junior analyst, finally found his nerve and anonymously donated a month's salary to a charity for adult education, a silent penance. Raymond Briggs finally approached Marcus one evening in the parking garage. He didn't ask questions. He simply said, "I saw what you did, and I saw what she did. The cameras see a lot." Marcus finished loading his cleaning supplies into his aging Civic. He looked at Raymond, and for the first time, a faint, almost imperceptible nod of acknowledgement passed between them. "We all have our jobs to do," Marcus said, his voice quiet. "Some are just messier than others." He drove off into the Chicago night, a man of precision, navigating the chaotic grid of the city, his legacy not in corner offices or budget sheets, but in the quiet restoration of order and the subtle delivery of justice. The Meridian Tower stood gleaming, its windows reflecting the city lights, holding within it 100 untold stories. But on the 42nd floor, the carpet remained spotless, a blank slate, holding the memory of a stain that had taught some that dignity is not a station, but a choice, and that true power often resides in the hands of those everyone else has chosen not to see. If you enjoyed this story of quiet justice and hidden depths, please show your support by liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Let us know in the comments below, are you watching this story from? Your engagement helps bring more layered narratives to life. Thank you for watching.